Bro, what are you doing, man? What are you doing to me? You look like you're at the beach. I think it's absolutely affected your brain. Now your hat's all jacked up. You're wearing sunglasses. Are you? This isn't going to become a normal thing. You're not going to move to the beach or anything, right?
Joe, I already bought a house. I'm moved in. I'm fully gangster now. I'm ready to go.
You ready to go? Did you see P. Diddy hanging out anywhere over there? He likes those beaches over there.
Yeah, Epstein Island's right over there. Not too far away.
The fact that that's even a thing should concern all of us. Are you having fun, though? Are the girls having fun?
It is the best feeling in the world to watch my babies play in the sand and enjoy the water. And my oldest has been building sandcastles, and she's doing a great job. So I'm very proud of her sandcastle ability. Definitely can't complain.
Well, we got a bunch of stuff to talk about today, and I know I keep dragging you away from the beach, doing your thing on the beach and that stuff, but I'm going to tell you, as we kind of go through the things that happened yesterday, Mike Lindell, the verdict came back, and I'm going to try and break that down and explain it to everyone. Mike was sued, Lindell TV, formerly known as FrankSpeech, by Eric Coomer, the guy that was on the Antifa call in September of 2020, who said, "Don't worry about it. Trump's not going to win. I made effing sure of it." So he sued everyone around me. He sued Clay Clark. He sued Mike Lindell. He sued Salem. He sued anyone that gave me a voice. But we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about Kash Patel, the gaslighting that Kash is doing. Sorry, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan because I know what he's saying is not accurate. And when you run someone away, it's that whole concept. It's that whole concept, Matt, that if you run someone, you have a bird sitting next to you, and a bird hunter walks up to you and says, "Hey, you seen any pheasant?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's way over there." He runs you out into a field where there's no pheasant, while the pheasant was sitting next to him the entire time. And that's what's happening with Kash Patel and this CCP involved in our elections. And then we're going to talk more about Iran and Israel, and it's getting pretty crazy. And everyone says that is it 3D chess, 5D chess? I think that there's just a lot of people that are putting their hands inside of the cookie jar. And frankly, I can't wait till President Trump starts to lop them off. So we'll be answering this and a whole lot more, and be getting more jealous about the fact that you're sitting on a beach getting a suntan today on Untamed.
Take two. Cut.
Take two.
Cut.
I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people. Right, follow me with this.
But they've been using their power to obstruct and stop justice from taking place.
You want to pray us out?
I do.
We'll pray for Tina. And let's have conversations about what truth is. Matt, yesterday I walked in, I was really upset over the verdict. I was really upset. I was pretty pissed, actually. I go, how in the world did they get to $2 million, $2.3 million? Now, they were asking for $60 million. They were asking for $60 million. Eric Coomer was asking for $60 million against Mike Lindell. And, I fired off a bunch of tweets yesterday, X posts, whatever you want to call it. But I put out these tweets. Call them tweets?
Yeah, we can still call them that.
This one in particular, I was just, and this is the first one I put up, or not the first one I put up, but I said something beforehand. And is it Keith Obelman?
Yeah.
Oberman.
One of the biggest faggots on the internet, Keith Olbermann.
He said something like, "Go get sedated" or something. And I was like, okay, I have something to say to you. We'll share that too. He had something to say to me. I love it when the radical left, they all follow me. They all have to say something, right? It's awesome because I get to live rent-free in their head. But the reason why I was upset, and then I had to get called by attorneys and people that, we talked a little bit about this yesterday about how bad the judge is in this case and what the judge do to put not only her hands, but stand on the apparatuses of justice. But I was told that, and this is the first or the second X I put up. I was just told that the jury found that I was credible and believe me, but find for Eric Coomer against Mike Lindell, I don't understand. I've never seen a more repressive set of events. I cannot stomach the sheer lack of justice. Angry. I'm very angry. Yet I know I will have my day in court, and I look forward to it. I must have my day in court. And then I want to say this about the jury. So then I put up a post about the jury because I looked at every jury member when I was there. And remember, I was 2 days. They browbeat me for 2 days. I was there for 3, browbeat me for 2. And the jury was just really good people. I mean, they were left, right. You could tell that they had different perspectives on life, just based on what you were seeing. But I wanted to say this because the judge made it an untenable situation. But the jury did what they did within the confines. So $2.3 million is, and only $400,000 was it against Mike Lindell. The rest of it was against what other people said on the network for FrankSpeech, not including me. It says this needs to be said. The jury in the Mike Lindell lawsuit were not the issue. I got to look into the eyes of every single one of them. They were good people who took this process seriously. From the young men in the front row to the mom who sat in the far right. From the woman with piercing eyes right in the middle and the guy in the back. They all paid attention and made decisions on what they were given, the judge's findings and the jury instructions. If they were given the facts fully and knew what was in the motion in limine, which is the suppression of facts to the jury, the judge aired findings of defamation per se, not pro se, allowed to hear witnesses that were suppressed just a few feet from the door, they would have admonished Coomer. As it sits, they did not allow themselves to be weaponized and did what they were supposed to do. Left, right, or center, the jury was just good men and women. It was everything that was right with our country. It wasn't a favorable verdict. He's going to appeal. He'll win on reversible error for sure. 100% it gets reversed on reversible error. My Pillow was found not to be at fault at all. So they sued My Pillow and they found no fault with My Pillow, which does open up the door for any subrogation of costs for the legal fees for that be given back to My Pillow.
And that was ridiculous that they tried to sue My Pillow anyway in the first place. The results of this are extremely important from a legal standpoint because not only was there no malice that was found, no punitive damages, but also no conspiracy. And like you said, My Pillow being fully cleared of liability. So from the standpoint of case law, this sets the precedent that all of those companies, like Mike said, who decided to take the easy road out and settle before going to court, likely made the wrong decision from their perspectives. If they had chosen to go to court and were awarded even a remotely fair trial, they would not have had anywhere near the amount of damages they were forced to pay. Which brings us back to the clear and obvious point that when Fox News decides to settle on something like that, it is someone who is part of the club paying someone else who is part of the club. He knows he can go to trial. He has the best lawyers in the world. They're paying themselves. They're circle jerking the money around. And so that's why when a real patriot decides to stand up and fight back in the system, he's likely going to not only be able to win on appeal, but on top of that, he will most certainly be able to get some damages back for the funds that he had to spend through My Pillow and other options on legal fees. So this is a massive win for Mike from a legal standpoint, and hopefully isn't even done yet because Mike also has a few people that he can go after, as can you, Joe, for some of the things that were said in a defamatory fashion, publicly thinking they had this freedom to do so because of who was in office with Joe Biden. They felt totally covered by a veil of protection with lawfare, seeing what was happening to Trump. And now that the tables have reversed, that Trump won, something they thought would never happen, we can start to see some of those dominoes fall, and the protection they thought they had has evaporated, leaving them fully exposed, butt naked, standing in the middle of the beach and ready to be fully attacked back in a legal fashion.
You know what I find interesting about the entire thing related to this, though, and you're right about all of that, is that the facts of the case, if you would let the facts of the case lie, if you would allow all the things about Eric Coomer and who he is and the evidence related to the election fraud, in other words, you were to bring it in droves. And I showed up. Here's what nobody understands. I showed up with a box. Matt, I had a box. I have these folders, and I brought in all the they said no election fraud. So I showed up with manuals. I was ready. I had a box. So much so they got nervous. They told the judge he can't use that stuff. I'm thinking to myself, what are you talking about? You said that there's no fraud. You said that there's no proof of election fraud. I got big binders of election fraud material. I just want to present it. Can I present it? So I took it up to the witness box and I set it down, and they would ask me questions. And so then they would have this side deal with the judge. And so I just started popping out my manuals, and I had the Democracy Suite manual, and I was going to show him in there how, what he was saying was a lie. And she just didn't let me. She didn't let me get to any of that, but I brought it. I came prepared. And the reality is that they don't want the truth out there. They don't want to accept the truth. They want to do exactly what they did and persecute. And Mike's going to win on appeal. He'll win on appeal because it's going to go to the 10th Circuit. 10th Circuit is a very considered a very conservative circuit. Pretty good judges. If you're going to have good judges, the 10th Circuit is probably as good as it gets. And now that President Trump's in office, people are saying, okay, now I want to retire. This is a good time for that. Although there's no telling what kind of person you can get. Now you look at Amy, Comey Barrett. I mean, that dumpster fire, how did that happen? Ugh. Then you can't make this up.
Yeah, that was the importance of the Senate race. If we had had one more senator, we probably could have gotten someone way better than Amy Comey Barrett into that position, because they were able to block it through the weak rhinos in the Senate with a slight majority of Mike Pence. They were allowed to essentially railroad that. But I mean, it's absolutely true. Once he goes to the 10th Circuit, it's going to be, as long as he doesn't get someone who's a total radical loon, he will be able to easily win that. Anyone even remotely decent will see the clear case law here and award the right decision.
It's a panel of 3 judges, so it makes it very difficult for a panel of 3 judges. And here's how it is. Think of it this way: high school sports are district court judges, right? So district court judges are basically high school sports players. Then you move up and you move to the appeals court, much smarter. I mean, they're basically they get better. And then they degrade themselves unless you're talking about the 9th Circuit, and then it's just a bunch of lunatics that do really radical stuff, and then it has to go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has to overrule things 9-0 typically, or 7-2, because you'll always have a couple of lefty loonies in the Supreme Court that are ideologues. But the 10th Circuit is the best place for you to get it, and with this 3-judge panel, you're likely to get a pretty favorable outcome. You won't at a state level. I mean, you have states like Colorado where all the way up, you saw they tried to take President Trump off the ballot in Colorado, all the way up through the Supreme Court of Colorado. Then it went to the U.S. Supreme Court, and 9-0, they overruled Colorado, which should tell you everything you need to know about just how terrible and rotted the judiciary is in Colorado specifically.
It is. And it does give me hope, though, that when you looked in the eyes of the jury, you looked into the eyes of the people sitting there, you didn't see people who were crazy, who were fully swept up in the lies that the far left decides to push. These are people who are Americans and who want to see justice, and who did make sure to not give the fullest penalty possible. If it was a New York jury, I would imagine that could be a significantly different outcome. So there's a lot of luck involved in that. And we do also have some pretty significant things that have also happened in the last 24 hours with Iran and Israel and what's happening there. So we're seeing this lawfare and these cases that are being settled in the backdrop of potentially politicians trying to bring us into World War III. I know we have a lot more to discuss with the Mike Lindell case, but I do want to bring this up because I was watching as the text to Trump from Mike Huckabee Sanders was sent out, where he basically grovels with Trump. Please go in and send our expensive military equipment to kill as many people as possible in Iran. Please go and bomb the biggest cities in Iran, take out their infrastructure, stuff that we'll likely have to then pay for somehow on the other side, just like what is happening with the Ukraine-Russia war. And so we're watching these groveling fake politicians who are so swept up in this fake ideology of capitulation and wanting to see Israel be propped up amongst all others because of the funding that they're receiving from AIPAC and because of the ties and connections that they have with people who are part of the Israeli government. And then we see Iran that is now also taking a step forward. They bombed the Mossad headquarters allegedly today, which is kind of a big deal when you think about it. Mossad is undeniably, even if you like Israel, you should basically see what Mossad is doing and understand how evil that is. There is no other way to look at it when they are suppressing information in the United States. And so for me, when I see Mossad headquarters, assuming no one was in there, no one got hurt, which probably is the case because they normally have intel ahead of time, that's something that makes me happy. I don't want Mossad to have any more power. And so if they're destroying Mossad buildings, is that a bad thing? And so I look at this and I wonder where it's going to end up when there's so many people, even on the right, that are polarized and people keep getting ratioed on Twitter. All the politicians who are supporting going further into the war are getting ratioed on Twitter 5-1 in some cases by smaller accounts. Owen Schroyer, for example, has been ratioing multiple large accounts within the Trump administration who are calling for that, including Sarah Huckabee Sanders and others. So that's where it starts to get into the territory of we're probably going to see a big rift happen that may persuade Trump to stop trying to pursue war.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and it's all tied together. It's all there's a certain balance you get to, and you take the coast first, right? Which they did, took the East Coast, took the West Coast, and then you just start to basically push your way to the inside and just consume with this cancer everything else that happens in our country. And so it happened in the judiciary. They're going to take away people's voice. They're going to just say, hey, look, we don't even care about the First Amendment. You don't have a right to speak unless we tell you have a right to speak. And that's what these cases are about. But you're right. And now we talk about going to war. We're going to go to war. We are going to go to war. Well, Mike had something to say. But before I talk about what Mike had to say, Matt, I want you to know there was 10 questions. The jury had 10 questions. 7 of the questions had to do with me. 7 of them. You know, talking about stealing the election. Don't worry about it. Trump's not going to win. I made sure of it. Questions that were directly related to me. Me personally. Those comments were directly related to what I experienced being on that call. And remember, I testified for a couple of days. And the jury answered every one of those questions, no. Every one of them. Which means the jury knew what I said was truthful and what Coomer said wasn't truthful. So all 7 of the questions related to me were all answered no. Was there defamation found? And I have all the stuff sent to me. So much so that the attorneys for Mike told me, they go, Joe, it's already decided. Like you have him dead to rights. Now the difference between Mike Lindell and me, in my case, is really simple. Coomer came out with an article in December of 2020, right? And in that article, he said that I made up his social posts and that what I said was impersonating him. Well, that wasn't true. He had to finally say that wasn't true. He also said he didn't have a Twitter account, found out that was a lie as well. I'm going to get the video of him actually lying and committing a felony into the court case. I'm going to buy airtime and I'm going to put it out on TV stations if I have to. But there's So the difference is that led to people coming to my home and trying to kill my wife and my children. That led to me having to put personal security detail on my family. That led to me having to fortify my home. That led to me having to put a gun next to my bed and live every single day knowing that someday I'm going to have to make a decision to hurt someone. That's what that led to. That led to people coming to my home to hurt me, sending powder through the mail, terrorizing my wife, terrorizing my family, terrorizing people that work for me. So when I go to file all this stuff against Coomer, I'm going after him for defamation because what he wrote led to real things, not made up stuff, but real things, real crimes that were committed against me 20 times in the last 4 years, in those 4 years, 20 times people came to my home. The police had to come to my home. And this is what it says. I do not have a Twitter account and my Facebook account is not active. These individuals are impersonating me. He said, and above it says, additionally, any posts on social media channels purported to be from me have also been fabricated. And I'm a fringe media personality that I want to increase my personal notoriety with web traffic and ad revenue. We'll continue to prey on the fears of public concern about the safety and security of our electronic process. Look, there's so much stuff. There's so much stuff that I pray they bring Halderman to the deal. I'm going to depose him. But 100%, I don't care what dollar he actually tries to get from Mike. I'm going to win a verdict in one of the most liberal places in the country against Eric Coomer. Because that guy is a demon and he did really bad things. And what he did to cause harm to my family and what Dominion did, this is not settled. What the media did, all of that stuff, what they did to my family, they need to pay for it. They need to pay for what they did. So Mike had something to say. Do you want to hear what Mike had to say?
I do. And I think this is important context because Mike thought there was a possibility, and there was a possibility, they could have taken everything from him. They could have literally decided, we're going to do the full $60 million that is being requested. They could have decided, regardless of the facts, it's clearly not the case. We're going to do it anyway because we don't like you and we have political motivations. And so to listen to this and to hear his optimism and his opinion on it, I think is super important.
Yeah, so I want you to understand this too. The judge, when the verdict was read, was so pissed. Pissed. Got up and stormed out of the courtroom afterwards. Because what she did not allow them to take everything from Mike. She tried to set it up. She tried to set it up.
So she got up after this was read and walked out, left. Angry.
Yeah, she was angry. She was angry. You could see it.
That's crazy.
It was seething.
So imagine if there was a fair judge, it would have been even less than 2.1 million, I imagine. But that's
there would have been because you would have literally had all the evidence. She wouldn't have done a motion in limine to say that I can't even talk about the things that brought me to the fact that I found Eric Coomer. It's crazy. All right, let's go ahead and play it. It's a couple minutes long, so let's go ahead and play it.
Hey. Hi.
Should I turn it this way? Is that better?
There you go. Yeah, we can see you now.
Okay, yeah, I had to run through the airport, so I got to be a little quiet here. I'm on the plane.
Yeah, thanks for joining. We're so glad that you're here. So, Mike, how are you feeling about the verdict?
100% awesome. Yes, my pillow, to get my pillow 100% vindicated, that was what our country was worried about, and I'm worried about. You go after a company just for putting an ad up, and you're supposed to be liable for what their content. Nobody would advertise anywhere ever again. And so I'm very excited about that. And of course, we'll appeal the other stuff. I mean, that's going to be appealed. And it was interesting though. The jury went through they had to go through each thing that they said was defamation. Even before the trial, they go through line by line. So I mean, it's like you're on trial for 50 things, not one big package. And it's disgusting. They are what our lawyers put in that got thrown out. We had so many things thrown out, and for this, and Smartmatic lawyers were there. So this was all about the machines. They know I'm the biggest voice to get rid of them, and I think we had a big breakthrough win, and things are just going to start crumbling for these guys. I really believe it.
Yeah, I think it's phenomenal news about MyPillow. I also was, encouraged by the amount of election fraud evidence that was brought into court. That we were actually talking, having Halderman and others have to explain things like DeKalb County, Georgia, and the other Antrim. The Antrim report was pretty damning. Learning that he changed his report after meeting with the government.
Right.
These are things we didn't know before your trial, and I think that the fact that they're in the record now is a great thing.
Right. And the one thing too that I'm going to bring up with the appeal is one of the things she didn't let in when Halderman called Dr. Frank a math high school math teacher. Well, he neglected to say he's got 66 peer-related books and journal or whatever volumes. He's up for the Nobel Prize in 1990, and the students he teaches have IQs of 145 and older and over.
Yeah.
So, and that was all. And what also didn't get put in, because when we realized they started putting in all this machine stuff and very much focusing on Dennis Montgomery. Well, I never mentioned Dennis Montgomery until after the cyber symposium, but one of the things that came up with Dr. Frank was that during scientific proof, which we are going to post on FrankSpeech or on Lindell TV, we're going to post it, and people, we really need to watch it because that data came right out of the machines in 4 states. So what I did after that, I spent the next year and a half of my life with flying over 780 hours, wearing out 4 pilots and flying and meeting Secretary of States, Attorney Generals, and politicians, showing them their own data, just like in Alabama where they had 4,662 people that voted over the age of 110. And he didn't do anything about it. And Halderman made a joke in the court, and he goes, who cares? That's what he said.
What?
Who cares? Yeah, so what?
So what? And that was, I thought she was going to clear the courtroom when that happened because of the outburst in the gallery.
Yeah. So what? And then they asked him later, does Alabama have voter ID where you check their IDs? And he said, I think so. Well, then by saying that, if they have voter IDs, which they do, they check your ID. Well, that means the 4,662 people voted, just their names got voted, but they weren't really people that showed up with their IDs. Hello, there you're caught. I mean, it's just that simple. How do you explain more votes than voters? These are all things I could have brought in to court had we known that. I mean, this seemed like a Dominion trial, not necessarily a Coomer trial,
Yeah. It sure did. Yeah. And I said, I would love your take on this. I said before you joined us that I have a feeling this is not the end of this situation, but we're full steam ahead as it pertains to, you mentioned you're going to appeal. There's a whole bunch of other Coomer cases. And so, we're still very much in it, I think. What say you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And this is the gateway I wanted to win, and we got a huge win with MyPillow, and that now the other 2 machine companies that have sued MyPillow, this should set a precedence where at least I don't have to worry about my employees in my company every single day and being attacked every single day. So that's a big blessing. But what this does, it gives me a lot now to move forward instead of concentrating on this case, which has tied me up for a month. I'm full steam ahead. We're going down to Arkansas. They got problems of Colonel Conrad and them trying to get Sarah Huckabee Sanders to wake up and do what Donald Trump, our great president, wants, rather than make people use machines instead of paper ballots. So we're all in. This is gonna really open up get everybody engaged again to get us. We only have a year left to get rid of these machines before the midterms, and it's. I promised our president with his next 4 years would not be in vain, and we're going to keep that promise.
Yeah. So I heard that you gave Kyle Clark a pillow code. Is that true?
Yeah, that is true. Promo code Kyle. Actually, Mark Cook gave him that, and I set it up for him. And so Kyle gave it. Kyle told me he gave it to some of his relatives yesterday.
Yeah.
I go, it's an active code, Kyle. I said to him, well, aren't you glad my pillow now has got vindicated? You don't have to worry about your pillow code out there when you're spewing all your lies. And you got a code out there selling product, Kyle. You better be careful.
Yeah. Final question for you, Mike, because I know you could take off and fly. Safe travels. You're headed home after 2 weeks of being in communist Colorado. How excited?
Oh no, I was here. I was here almost a month. Remember, I was
Oh,
here
I
9
bet
days
you're ready
before
to
the
go.
trial.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it was,
goodness. God
it
bless
was,
you.
it was interesting. You know, I went uptown during the big, the Saturday during the protest. And I don't know if you've seen that, Ash. I can send it to you. Did you see them? You know, F Mike Lindell, F my pillow.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I'll send that to you. I'll send that to you right now. It was disgusting. Hey, and then she got on a bullhorn and said, "Hey, Mike Lindell's here, everybody!" And then I had to duck into a Walgreens, and my wife and I went out the other direction.
Yeah, I would have advised you not to go to that protest.
Right. Well, we just kind of got caught. We went up to Walgreens to get some water and stuff, and all of a sudden here they came out of nowhere. And normally I don't just run and hide, and I stood out there, but then it got a little boisterous. So
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
it was kind of ironic. They're out there exercising free speech, and I'm getting sued for it.
yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah.
know?
But you know, it is a win. I believe only 2 of the 10 defamatory statements you were found liable for, meaning some of the, you know, regular statements were not defamatory. I think that's a win for the First Amendment as well.
Oh, yeah,
and the First Amendment is
absolutely.
very much on trial in this case.
Yeah. And you know, the ones that they said that I was defamatory was the ones when he had already sued my pillow on the steps of the state capitol, and I think anybody would have responded. I did. I called him and the lawyers the biggest criminal crime family that ever lived. They did crimes against humanity and all of mankind. You know,
But your anger, I was there when that happened, and your anger was about my pillow. You were so.
Your anger is about my pillow. Now, she left out the part that I think is important, and that is those 7 questions were directly related to not just normal speech, but my speech, me personally. Like it was related to me. So it was good. It was good.
Yeah, there's not enough people who are mentioning that. They literally based this whole case around things you said, and we're trying to use it as a pulpit to go after not only Mike, but also you as well. And they're trying to also set the precedent, they have been the entire case, for going after you next, which is still something that is going to be important to pay attention to. That is what's coming. You're about to be the center of their ire. And that will likely, based on this precedent, not be something they can win. But regardless, that's still an important factor that more people should be discussing, because if it wasn't based on that, if they weren't trying to take away free speech, none of this would have happened in the first place. That's the whole reason all of this is happening. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's also important that, you know, as we start talking about how the information is collectively comes together for the trial, there, and this is for everyone out there. Mike never paid me anything. Never paid me anything. I spent the better part of 3 years protecting that man. And I've told everyone why I left, and I still talk to Mike. And Mike has, you know, gotten mad at me, but Mike will also tell you that I took nothing from him. The people that did take money from him, Dennis Montgomery, that con man, PCAPs, shot a space laser in and changed the outcome of things. That never happened. That's absolutely a lie. And Brandon House, I'm wholly disappointed in Brandon House. They took millions of dollars from Mike. They grifted and grafted Mike and they could have shown up. They could have shown up at trial, and they could have gotten on the stand, and they could have talked about the fact that, you know, I mean, Dennis Montgomery couldn't have talked about anything because he's just a liar. But Brandon House could have gotten up there, and he could have talked about the fact that Mike was, you know, he was his own worst enemy. And then when he talks about things, he should have a right to talk about bad people doing bad things, but didn't show up. They said they would show up, but you know who did show up? I showed up. I wasn't under subpoena. They never served me. And I was like, I will be there. And I was the one, by the way, that they wanted me to give up the Antifa kit, which I was deemed as a journalist in a court, that I could have, they could have thrown the book at me and thrown me in jail. I was prepared to go to jail. We talked about this. I was like, Matt, I might go to jail. You might be stuck without me because I'm not going to hurt someone else. I won't do it.
if you were in jail, Joe, I feel like you'd at least be able to make some great prison wine. You could have the whole cell block.
Some hooch.
Yeah, you get the whole cell block, making it nice. You could turn the prison around, Joe. I think it's an important opportunity. You can play football with the prisoners, help to reform them, bring them closer to God. Yeah, it wouldn't be the worst thing if they want to throw Joe Altman in prison. Maybe that would be better for the world after you come out. So we'll see. They may still do it. It's still possible.
I'd bring them all to Jesus. I'd bring all those men to Jesus. I'd bring every single one of them to Jesus. That's what I would do. I would talk to them about, how the system exists and what it does. And I would literally do everything I could to bring those people to Jesus. And I would beat them in basketball like I beat you. And I would throw a football on a string as I threw it to you. I would do all those things while we were in prison. If the courtyard was big enough, I guess.
Well, we also have the CCP that is now potentially trying to get involved in U.S. elections, which is, what's that?
He said you just ran past that. You're like, see ya. Yeah.
As long as you're not in jail in China, I think you're good to go, Joe. China jail is not so fun. We don't want to have Joe Altman in jail in China. You won't even know how to speak the language.
Shit.
I mean, maybe in jail in Iran you'd be okay. Yeah, you can at least kind of get a little bit of the language going there. But if you go to jail in China, you're screwed. That would not be fun.
I agree with that. But what do you think about this? They say the FBI. You obviously heard you went through all this before. What do you think, bro? FBI has located documents which detail alarming allegations related to the 2020 U.S. election, including allegations of interference by the CCP. I immediately declassified the material and turned the documents over to Chairman Grassley for further review.
So I know that I'm going to get disagreement here from Apollo, and we can hear Apollo's take on this. But I think it's all psyop. I think the idea that China is who genuinely cares about the United States when we're one of their primary customers, when they want us to be strong so we can pay off the national debt that we owe to them. If our economy fails, they have more to lose than anyone. The only people who benefit from us being in an unstable position to where we can be controlled more easily, yes, China does at times. They own a lot of the companies that own TikTok, for example, by proxy. They also have a huge amount of investment in BlackRock. And so therefore, by proxy, also own a lot of the other companies in the United States. So the CCP, China, and especially through some of the big companies out of them, they are big primary stakeholders in the United States economy. But does that mean they're going to try to sway the elections to get favorable terms? I think actually under Trump, China may have the ability to have more favorable business terms. I don't necessarily see a huge incentive. Whereas with Biden, who is the country that was able to fully control the United States under Biden, to where every single thing they said, he said how high, jump how high, bomb how many bombs, how big. It was Israel and the Israeli government. And we're seeing now Trump putting some resistance to them trying to go to full-scale war with Iran. If Biden was still in office, he would have signed the paper in a second, and we'd already be in the middle of a massive war right now with probably a draft where some of us are getting called up. That would be the case if Biden had won again. And so I don't think necessarily it's China that would be interfering. I think what's happening is Mossad is interfering in our elections. There's no doubt about that, but then they're also trying to find ways to put intel out there, make it look like it's China, so we're focused on the wrong target of who's really doing it. Now, that doesn't mean there couldn't be some groups within inside China who are trying to manipulate our elections. That's absolutely possible. I wouldn't put it past them at all. There's going to be some small groups who want Biden to win within China that are probably doing that, yes. But is it an overall correlative effort with the government?
China.
I'm having a much harder time really believing that that's who we should be focused on stopping right now.
Well, I mean, look at the fact that Wuhan, China, that's where the virus came from. That's where COVID came from. Who funded it? Who funded the lab in Wuhan, China?
Anthony Fauci.
We did. So we get to go after China and say China did this. And I think China and Russia, they sit back and they're like, hold on. So let me get this straight. We send you a bunch of cheap shit to you, and it doesn't cost you anything to buy it. And everyone buys it, so you're pissed off at us because everyone buys our cheap shit, right? And we steal your patents, and we just run through and we totally destroy your AI platforms because we'll just let it go for free. So we're doing all this stuff And now all of a sudden we care about your elections. We don't care who the president is. We care who runs the companies that are bringing all this product in. That's who we care about. It's all about money. Let's go. I don't know. Maybe that simplifies it a little too much, but pretty true.
And if we're looking at, so the same company that owns TikTok is also investing heavily in other US companies. They are buying farmland in the United States. So there's a lot of smart businessmen in China with an average IQ of approximately 103, which is currently, as we currently sit, around 10 points or so higher than our average IQ as a country because we've let in so many immigrants. We used to be around the same. We're not anymore. So as a result, they have more intelligent businessmen on average than we do and businesswomen. And so because of that, they're able to see some of these opportunities and capitalize on them. Really, what we should be doing is also finding opportunities like that around the world and capitalizing on them. And if it's not reciprocal, then it does need to be shut down. So that's a separate issue than them interfering in politics, is them interfering in our business landscape as a whole, and also coming with illegal workers and putting illegal products in. That absolutely needs to be stopped and is a serious problem. They can't just copy our products, completely bypass copyrights, completely bypass any law that protects people to invent products, including patent law, which I have patent on a product, so I know a lot about that. I wrote it myself when I was in high school. So I know about this and I know what they do. And I was absolutely worried along that process and still am that they can use my patent and reproduce it in China and I can't do much about it. They can even find ways to get some of that product illegally into the United States. That does happen as well with very little consequences. So until that's settled, we're not going to be at a fair playing field. Tariffs are necessary. And that's a separate issue from the fact that there is obvious interference in our government. It's mostly from the inside. Most of the people who do have ties to the Israeli government but are inside our country and do have citizenship, they are the ones who are really actively working to undermine our election integrity, who are actively looking at the voter fraud and trying to increase it, trying to make sure that if they're going to win, it's going to be by a margin that will look real, even though everyone knows that most of those votes are replicated or changed within the system. It's so obvious what's happening. And if we don't stop both of those, if we don't stop all of those things, really, this is the last opportunity. Trump promised us he was going to stop those things. He was going to make trade fair again. And on top of that, he was going to stop the wars. If he can just stick to the promises he made, he will end up being one of the most legendary presidents that we've ever had with an incredible legacy.
He's pretty legendary now. He got shot in the ear. But I agree with you fully. If we get to the place where we can, we can stop the wars, but if we get rid of the machines and the mail-in ballots, we'll get rid of most of the politicians. Because people will start, and if we start holding the media responsible for some of the bad behavior that they have, it's checkmate, right? Media, get real people that can actually run for office, can do real things, and get rid of the machines. It will be good. Man, I'm going to fall asleep. Just kidding. We have a video of a CCP insider that says there's 1.5 million ballots. See, they're also talking about 1.5. The amount of fraudulent ballots in 2020, 2022, and 2024 is near the range of probably 10 to 15 million ballots. 10 to 15 million votes are fraudulent. Phantom. I reported it here first, just so clear. I did. I was my model first. But here's a video. Let's hear this. This is a video talking about missing ballots. Let's go ahead and play it.
印刷不一样是吧？
对啊，因为你仔细看一下，它那个选票的那个印刷是不一样的。
那个没关系，我会看着。
There's no problem. How many pieces to print? If payment is good. These are different papers, so require different.
然后到时候你们这边发物流
No problem at all. This is a massive bulk order. It is okay to
我这
deliver.
边订的话就是大。
More days needed. Can you ship internationally? Sure. It'll be shipped by an international shipping company. How much does it cost to print one piece?
发国际可以。
Same as I told you before. Customer. Okay.
可以走是吧？你这边费用的话多少钱打印一张？我这边现在叫人给你转。
那个跟上次一样啊。
OK， 好，我知道了。你再把二维码发我一遍，谢谢。
然后那个还欠一点那个。
知道。
给我。
OK， 好。
Watch more evidence in details one by one.
And this is them talking by messenger. They're going back and forth on the ballots and showing pictures of the ballots. Stacks of them. is a ballot printing plate in Florida. It goes through the candidates, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Here's a ballot printing plate in Mississippi. This is crazy. This is absolutely nuts. Here's a ballot printing plate in North Carolina. Here's Zunhai bill number. This is for when they actually shipped it. I just want everyone to understand. Here's the printers, paper printers, printing factory. By the way, these printing factories are the same as you have with Runbeck. Runbeck's the same thing. And remember, in 2024, we saw that they were printing ballots after the fact. And this brings us to Vanessa A. Olervides. And here is forged ID photo from Olervides' connection. This is just crazy what we're actually looking at. It's crazy. And the full original 1.5 million U.S.
Printed from China, corroborated by CCP aristocrat descendant.
Okay. And this basically is a whistleblower. And remember, whistleblowers won't get any sort of weight. The FBI whistleblowers, I didn't get any weight. Tina Peters is in jail because they can't do the right thing by her. And Olervides disclosed the factory owner and all the information. And this is going to turn into, and this particular one says 500,000 illegitimate ballots of various American swing states. Apollo, can you do me a favor? Can you take this down real quick?
Never. When it's access rights, supermarket shop.
If you're going to put up a ballot, Matt, if you're going to put up a ballot, Apollo, if you're going to have ballots that are fake like this, right? You have to fill them out, right?
Yep.
And so you have to, what you're filling them out for may not necessarily be to put them in anything, because the system can do it for you. It's called a rootkit. You can go in, you can change the outcome. Apollo, you know the model that I have? Do you have that readily available? Can you put that up real quick? Matt, this is really important for everyone listening. This is really important. This model was written in December of 2020, prior to us having any audit material. So we didn't know, not one person talked about fraudulent or phantom ballots. You go check me on this. Not one single person was talking about fraudulent. Nobody talked about Dominion until I started talking about what Eric Coomer said and the fact that he was tied to Dominion. No one. And no one was talking about phantom ballots. Matt, if you look in the middle of this, it says, you have the absentee ballots. This is for all mail-in ballots. And my vernacular is off because I said that there are two adjudications. Adjudications are basically, it's the wrong vernacular, but it's the right thing that they do. You have to make sure that the signatures match. All the numbers are places where you have massive, what I call the big cons and the small cons. You have the ability to infiltrate huge issues with them. One is on mail-in ballots, and the second one is going to be at the fake ballots and phantom ballots. And so once you actually go through that process, you have a voter registration validation, you cure those envelopes. They then, a couple weeks before the election, get separated from each other. Ballot goes to go to tabulation, and the envelopes are then stored separately. So if you look at the top, it says fake ballots, phantom ballots. So fake ballots are the ballots that were collected or were put through the system that, were showed up in bins. The ballots are the ballots that you have that went through the process, whether they were harvested or not harvested. And at the bottom, it says phantom ballots. So phantom ballots don't exist. They don't exist. They're inside the tabulation system. And so inside the tabulation system, they then are sent to adjudication. When we know that a lot of ballots were sent to adjudication. And this is when I said you'd have to have some sort of internet connection or some sort of separate database that would lead you to know, once you know who voted, you know who didn't vote. So then you could attach to those phantom ballots. And that's why you could have ballots that could show up 2 weeks, 4 weeks, a year. It doesn't matter when they show up. As long as no one is asking questions about getting access to the ballots so they can do an audit, it doesn't matter. They're just lying in wait. And that's what we saw happen in Arizona. They lied in wait, opened every box, just had all the phantom ballots because they knew what that batch was, all the fake ballots. They knew what that was, and they just stuffed all those ballots into these different ballot boxes and made sure that they had different precincts in it because they didn't care. They just needed the match. They were going to do whatever they could to create chaos with people like Jovan Pulitzer. They're going to have people just make up stuff and, magic unicorns and all that stuff. So we knew that was going to be an issue, right? But you would have to be able to, at some point, reconcile the number of ballots. And they were able to do that. And this is how they did it. And I wrote this model long before anyone had access to anything. You didn't have access to it. Just a guy that's a system architect that says, all right, here's how they stole the election, which held up and predicted, Apollo, what did it predict? Almost to exact certainty, exact numbers.
It's mathematically impossible what they're claiming happened. There's no realistic chance that the way the votes were put out there, that is legitimate votes. We know at the very least, like you said, probably at least 20% of the votes for Joe Biden. And if you look at the local elections, it's even more outrageous how they're able to cheat with Senate races in Arizona, with Senate races in Nevada, and the way they've been able to basically stack the system so there's no chance that anyone with an opposing opinion can even win a primary. That's where it starts to get into even more dicey territory. It's not just the general elections, it's also the primaries. If they want people who are part of their coalition and who will cite the talking points that they want and who are bought and paid for, they know they can also cheat in the primary elections as well. And then no matter what, in many of these cases, the winner of the general is going to be one of the people who's in their bag. That's kind of how they've taken over our country slowly, and how there's not anyone in a position of political power who's willing to call this out. You would think, logically speaking, surely if they were cheating on this scale, surely if they were really changing the ballots and harvesting and having fake operations, whether they make it look like China and it's actually not, or it actually is China, some of that's still up for debate. But we know it's happening. We can see the data, and you would think, well, surely then one of these politicians in charge is going to say something. Surely they're going to come up with some lawsuit against these people and try to expose it. But the reason why they don't is because they were already selected in the primary process and given their position, just like the person on the other side was. So they set it up so that no matter what, they're going to win and have no one in a position of power for the most part who can hold them accountable. And anyone who tries then has lawfare happen against them. It's amazing the level of grip and control they have set up through the system. It's disgusting. What do you think, Apollo? Is this for sure the CCP, or is there a possibility it could be an ulterior force to that is maybe using them as a front?
Well, good segue. Yeah, it's 100% the CCP. I mean, I'm not going to say that it was the CCP who did everything. I mean, you guys have spoken several minutes ago about several groups that are a big problem, and no matter what country it is that's screwing us, it's still because we have a lot of people who are sold out in our country and are not standing up. But yeah, absolutely, yeah. But yes, absolutely. I think it's ridiculous to dismiss the CCP as having any influence in our elections, especially after the Biden presidency. I mean, the entire laptop is them over there wheeling and dealing and selling state secrets over in the CCP with Devin Archer and Hunter. I mean, the guy who left his Venmo wide open for the public to find. It's absolutely the CCP. Israel is obviously a problem, but they're just a parasite on the American tax dollar. When it comes down to it, yeah, they have blackmail, sure, but I'm far more concerned about the CCP than Israel, by a measure of 100, at least. Israel can kiss my ass. I pray for the people who are over there. They're not our biggest problem. I'm sorry. I don't believe they are at all. You have like you said earlier, we've got farmland. They've basically taken over Canada. They're the ones running the cartels and all the drugs and, all kinds of organ harvesting programs through the southern border and all over our nation. They have legitimate police stations in major cities in the United States. They were flying weather balloons. We were playing games about it for the last 4 years over our borders. The CCP is our biggest problem. You know what I am excited about to see Trump kind of putting a quash on the Iran-Israel nonsense that's going on and all of these conflicts that are going on, but not getting us involved directly in a committal way, is because we're about to go to war openly with China, I believe, in the next few months.
I agree with you.
So I'm very much okay with them saying, yeah, you guys can piss off. You're going to kill each other, go kill each other, but, we would like to see people stop dying, which he's been consistent on. I would also not like any unnecessary deaths in any country, Israel, Iran, or anywhere else. But we're going to war. Like, we're already at war, and it's about to happen. So I'm, people were upset and saying he's going back on his promise with his True Social post today, and I don't think that's true. I think he's saying, nope, we're out of this, but if you're going to, start something, we're going to come in and finish it. And we also, when we talk about CCP, like, let's not pretend that they're not, trading weapons and money and oil and all kinds of things with Iran anyways. I mean, this is the whole big network. The CCP is our biggest problem, and it's going to be openly very soon. So this part is actually a bigger deal, because if this is true and they come out with information about the CCP doing this, whether or not it was the single or only factor that influenced the election, this is openly a declaration of war by doing this, by influencing a foreign nation's elections. And I mean, this is a huge deal. So the CIA and the U.S. government has been guilty of this all over the world. Joe's talked about that, intimately, but that's what we do. That's what our State Department and our intelligence agencies have been doing. So on that regard, USA has been a big criminal. But by admitting this and going into detail without even touching the Wuhan virus and all of this stuff, let's not forget they have all their it's a lot. And then let's not forget about all these people that have in all of our universities who are just walking back and giving all the technology and all the information back to the Chinese State Department anyways. And that includes mathematics and all kinds of things that directly tie into the election security software and all these people who get funneled into the security agencies and into CISA and all this other shit. It's of course it's the CCP. The biggest problem we have is the CCP. It's not Russia. It's not Iran. It's not Israel. It's the CCP.
But
it's definitely, and they own Epic Games, approximately 40% of that, which includes Fortnite, which has been a Mayan virus in the United States in large parts. Fun game, yes. But a lot of people get taken over by it. They own Riot Games, Roblox.
Well, and they use all these things, and they're building that into your digital twin profiles too, which they're also running through, our fun things like Palantir that everyone likes to talk about at a pedestrian level. But yeah, it's not a big problem.
It's Snapchat, it's Discord, it's Reddit, which they own significant stake in, over 12% of Snapchat, approximately 10% of Reddit, which is enough to have a significant influence over it and to be able to collect data from it. Universal Music Group, they own a large percent of that, which is also essentially an Israeli company.
Hollywood, entire Hollywood is China.
Yeah, they own at the very least a good percentage of it and have an influence over it, which they're participating in that same evil. Skydance Media, Tesla, even Foxconn, which basically goes through and does Apple products. Everyone knows about Foxconn. So they own a huge stake in the largest U.S. company in Apple, which is crazy to think about. NU Holdings, which is a bank that a lot of people use, Oscar Health. Go down the line, they've basically got their arm in just about every single aspect of American companies, gaming, tech, social media, everything they can get data from, they are able to do and are successfully doing right now.
Look, if we go to war with China, though, they have what's called the DF-17. It's a hypersonic missile that has the ability to go past Mach 5, but also maneuver. So not traditional trajectories like you'd get with a typical ballistic missile, right? It has the ability to change its path. It's like an airplane, but a missile that's flying supersonically, like crazy, right? And you can't stop it. So missile defense systems and tracking it and shooting it is nearly impossible. So I mean, we have an issue. We have an issue right now because, you know, we've relied on China to build all this stuff for us. I mean, most semiconductors and chipsets come out of where? China.
Including for military contracts.
Yes, and our election
Taiwan,
machines.
though. That's
Yeah,
why Taiwan's so important. I mean, they have most of the chips actually coming out of Taiwan right now.
Bro, they already own Taiwan. Let's not pretend, bro. Come on, bro.
Taiwan.
China has Taiwan. It's a state of China. Let's not pretend.
China. Hong Kong.
China.
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 China. Okay, so are you telling me, by the way, that I can't go get investment capital from China because they're knocking? So I was like, oh, maybe.
I guess it depends.
You know, I think we get a little, a couple green dollars from
ching
China
ching
over there. You know, just a little bit of ching ching money.
No, seriously though. I mean, one of the companies that we talked to is a Chinese company. I was like, oh, where's your money from? Like China. I was like, oh.
Yeah, the only problem was they offered to pay entirely in rice, and that's just not going to work.
I love rice. I like fried rice.
Yeah, if it can, let them know, bring back an offer. If they can cook the rice for us with egg and
I
noodle,
can cook rice.
then I say yes.
I mean, look, as long as there's like sushi on top of it, I'm all about it. Just put a little.
You need the yum yum sauce, bro. The yum yum sauce is the most important thing.
I might be able to do
yum yum sauce makes anything taste good.
You know, it does blow my mind that they keep saying all this stuff about what China's doing. Rasmussen poll is whoever's running their X account is on fire right now, and this is what the Rasmussen poll had to say about the FBI's statement. You ready?
Okay. And by the way, after we come back from this, I'm going to be at the beach with my granddad. He just asked me to go, so I'm gonna go ahead and get off. It was a good show today, though, and I'm sure this week is going to have some crazy news stories.
You keep leaving me out in the cold. All right, Apollo's coming in. He's going to sit in your stand and put your glasses on so we can and put a background behind you, Apollo, that at the beach.
Yeah, just get the hat, get the beach on your green screen, Apollo, and no one will know the difference.
You could have invited us all out to hang out with you. We would not have been third or fourth or fifth or eight wheels. It would have been beautiful.
Joe, there's still room for you. There's plenty. There's a hammock right down there. There's plenty of space. It's good weather. Got the ocean breeze. Can bum it out here a little bit. There's still room.
If only I didn't give up drinking, it would be great. So Rasmussen poll said no, none, zero federal investigations of 2020 election fraud were permitted. So this could not be reported. But here it comes. FBI gives Congress intel on the alleged Chinese plot to create a fake mail-in ballots in 2020. Guess what? I was right. Say Joe's right. Joe is right. I'm so right. Rasmussen poll literally states nobody believes him anymore. How do you believe the FBI anymore? How? And in a letter today, Kash Patel, in a letter today to FBI Director Kash Patel, Grassley wanted more documents related to the interference in the 2020 election. So let's go ahead and put this. The only bad part about this is I'm not going to tell you whose account it's from. That's actually a good idea. And it says, Director Patel, on May 5th, 2025, I sent you a letter requesting, among other things, the Federal Bureau of Investigation produce a September 25th, 2020. Holy crap. Apollo, put this next to us for a minute. Let me ask you a question. Is Matt still here or did he leave?
No, he left.
Okay. Bro, Eric Coomer was on the call the week of September 26th, right? This is an FBI intelligence information report, an IIR, from the Albany field office from September 25th. And I'm not saying that they're all connected, but isn't it strange that all around the same time, hey, don't worry about it, Trump's not going to win, I made blank sure of it, right? You have this. You have all the fraudulent and phantom ballots that were out there. You had the irregularities in multiple swing states. You had the shutting down of systems systematically across the country, so they stopped counting. You have the water main breaks. So you have the ballots being driven down from New York City to Pennsylvania. You had the Michigan issue. You had the Wisconsin issue related to the missing the flash drive. We already said what you could do with the flash drive. And they have this report that says from September 25th, 2020, they're requesting additional information related to that report. The IRR notes will be recalling in order to re-interview the source. Recipients should destroy all copies of the original report and remove the original report from its computer holdings. This was actually that they were told to get rid of this report in September of 2020. Apollo, this is more indication that everything that I said, that it was inside of Dominion voting system. We have the emails out of Patrick Byrne's case. We have the Serbian emails. We have Serbian emails written in Serbian. They're writing code. Like all the code is being written over in Serbia for Dominion. Does anybody have a problem with them writing code in Serbia for our election systems here? Do you have a problem with that, Apollo?
I mean, I don't feel like, I'm certainly not a rocket scientist, but I don't feel like that's a good idea. I mean, when we have things that they pretend are critical infrastructure on one hand and then pretend that they're not, how in the name of ever-loving God are we having election code and all these things written in all these countries where they have a proven record of being used to tamper?
Well, I mean, and that just gets me down to, I mean, there's more to talk about related to that, but I mean, can we be honest about the fact that nothing makes sense? Nothing that they're saying makes sense. Unless I'm just retarded. And maybe I am.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of weird pivoting going on. If, they have all this evidence now, maybe it really just took this administration to bring it up, but where was all of this? They spent the last 4 years going, oh, it was Germany. It was over here. They were hacking it from the sky and the satellites. And then there's no problem here. Then you have Halderman's ridiculous flipping during his testimony. And you have Dennis Montgomery going, no, it's the U.S. government and the CIA. I mean, so there's like all these hands in the pot. Now, more than one thing can be true simultaneously. But now we're getting Chinese mail-in ballots. Now?
I'm trying to find it. I was sent a deal directly related. I actually have the emails from Serbia, and they were leaked. You weren't supposed to see them. And it's, let's see if I can find it here in a second. JD Sharp, is that it? Okay, that's not it. Let me see if I can find it. I was like, how in the world did you get these emails? Is it? Oh, yeah, I'll find it. But you have a letter where they're talking about the fact that they destroyed evidence in the FBI related to an investigation in September of 2020. I'll find the emails. And we got to do something about this. We got to do something about it. We got to stop the madness right now. Once and for all, we got to stop the madness, don't we?
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at some of this. I mean, does this potentially explain why they slow walked and, walked around the Serbia piece for so long?
In part, I believe so, yeah.
I mean, again, begs the question, who was Coomer really working for?
And remember, when President Trump was in office, Serbia was a massive mess. Mm-hmm. President Trump had to go in there and clean up the mess in Serbia. So you have an election system company, Dominion Voting Systems, who had their entire infrastructure, their data centers built by Chinese companies for them using what's called roaming networks to build an entire model for Dominion voting systems in Serbia with a Serbian company. Dominion has all these little shell companies everywhere, these little hidden offices. You got a guy like Eric Coomer, who's a Satanist and a drug addict and a bunch of other really bad things. He's just a bad guy, right? Sorry, buddy, you're just bad. You're just not a good person, right? You write about raping your wife. You're not good, right? You run into buildings, almost kill people, and somewhere along the line, we're supposed to just be okay with it. And it's not okay. It's not okay. So they're doing all this stuff. And somewhere along the line, they already had information related to the fact that an election was about to be stolen in 45 days. And we're told to delete that information.
Well, I mean, then let's not pretend that DHS hasn't already been running our elections. I mean, there's kind of an elephant in the room. So what the hell did they see and were they ignoring? And I mean, we go back even a few years ago. Remember, we had the entire state of Colorado. They were having all their state websites go down, and there were some of these, networks that were like showing up as coming from China and routing through there.
Yeah, it's really bad. And then the more we get into this information, this is all the information that was suppressed before. Remember, there was no proof of election fraud in 2020. That's what they said. But it's not true. It's a lie. There's so much election fraud evidence that, frankly, we lived 4 years. These people should all be hung. They should all be hung for treason, because that's what it was. It was treason. And they did a lot of really bad things to Americans. Americans died in 2021, 2022. J6ers committed suicide. Men were raped. Women were raped and murdered by illegals. Men were raped in jail in J6 by people that were running the jails in D.C. that are not even American citizens. We were fully captured. And if it wasn't for the American people standing up and doing what we did for 4 years, I don't think we'd even be in a place right now where we had the opportunity to save it. And little by little, they keep talking about stuff like what's happening in Nebraska. Did you hear about this? In Nebraska, Apollo, the EAC just confirmed that no machines in Nebraska are certified. None. Let's go through this. None. Zero. This letter acknowledges U.S. Election Assistance Commission EAC receipt of your Freedom of Information Act request. Pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act, I respectfully request the following records from the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. List of currently deployed voting systems used in federal elections across the United States and in jurisdiction that were certified under VVSG 1, VVSG 2005, or any legacy voting system standard, and have not been submitted for testing or certification under VVSG 2.0. For each voting system listed, please include the name of the vendor, the name and version of the voting system, the date of the original certification, the jurisdiction by which the systems are currently deployed, to the extent available. Any communication reports and advisories issued by the EAC to state or vendors regarding the continued use of systems that are not certified under VVSG 2.0. Okay? So this is a report. None of the legacy systems have been submitted for VVSG 2.0 testing and certification. There's the answer. None. The EAC's records that are responsive to your request are publicly available on the EAC website by accessing the list of certified systems and the map of deployed systems. So they're not even giving them the help that they need. But none of them are certified.
Well,
none.
Talk about treason. I mean, think about how, there were people going after this. This was an easy one to go after. And what do we see in Carrie Lake's case? And I mean, same thing with the image from Mesa that we have, because of Tina. Uncertified software. So what were all these people doing? What was all the media go walk the streets? And then they're talking about Red Wave, and you have Scott Pressler and all these people who were, in my opinion, committing treason further and walking people off the ledge, just like they did with COVID. And now they still have ridiculous behind the curved narratives going around about that. But none of these things were certified in the first place. They're admitting it again now. Every county, Georgia, all these states that have been investigated, it's the same thing.
It's fraudulent.
But they just spin people in circles.
fraudulent. Fraudulent. Absolutely fraudulent. And there's more to it. There's more to it. And this, Apollo, it is not rocket science. Every social platform has literally deplatformed me. Every one. Which means people at the highest level of government were having conversations about me personally and saying, look, we can get past a lot of things. We've got to take this guy's voice away. And it's evident. I mean, even on X or everything else, it's evident that there are people in positions that say, listen, we can have a lot of people talk. We can have Joe Rogan talk about things. He can sniff the butt. But this Altman guy, he just doesn't sniff the butt. He goes right to it. He sticks that banana right in that butthole. Just boop.
Thank you for that mental picture.
I had to say it. But so I don't pull punches. I don't pull punches. And yet, I'm not proud of who I was in 2021 and 2020. I'm not proud of it. If there's one thing that I regret, it's not being measured and not being an example of who I needed to be as a man. Right? But it's hard when somebody comes after your family. I mean, Apollo, you were there. It was not fun. Well, it was kind of fun. I mean,
there were moments. There were moments.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get to throw people around like rag dolls, there's a little bit of fun. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's kind of fun. But it wasn't fun. Having your wife and your children attacked is not fun. Like it turns you into a monster of sorts. And not a monster that would do harm to good people, but one that was I was so thirsty. I was thirsty. I wanted vengeance. I wanted it.
Well, vengeance isn't isn't always a bad thing. Now, I mean, I've seen firsthand a lot of, the things that you were forced to endure and what was done to you and your family. And it's disgusting what they did to you and a lot of others. But, I saw how it affected you, and it honestly breaks my heart because, even that vengeance part, that's all they focus on is the part of you that's rightfully angered by the things that they did to you and your family and to other Americans. I mean, even going back to your reason for getting into this was because people were losing their businesses. And they take the people with the, I think the most well-meaning intentions, and, like they did with the press smears against you, same thing they've done with Tina. It's all about fame. It's all about this. They turn you into this persona of this selfish, unhinged person. And I mean, it's just disgusting.
Well, I don't know. Halderman in the trial said that I was you
were a psychopath or whatever?
No, he said I was a dangerous, crazy man. And I look back at some of the videos of me in 2021 where I wanted everybody. I was screaming into the mic and I wanted blood. When Coomer said those things that I made that stuff up, remember how bad it got? Yeah. It got really bad. I mean, people were they wanted my head on a pike. And they weren't coming for me. They said, we can't hurt Joe but we're going to go for his family. Man, I tell you, I said it yesterday. Somebody asked me a question and I said, it changes you. When people come for your friends and family, when they come for your family, when they come for your children, it changes who you are. What's that series of the guy whose wife and daughter was killed?
Punisher?
No, it's the army guy. And he goes on a rampage. Terminal List.
Yeah.
Yesterday when and I'm kind of taking a little bit of a left turn here a little bit, and I'm sorry for that. But I walked into your office, I was crying.
Yeah.
I was really upset. And I was so upset that they found Mike guilty of anything, because it seemed like a complete injustice. And I knew something was going to happen like that. And so I was looking at what they were doing to Mike, and I couldn't understand how it could be this unjust, and that this guy, this really evil guy, and that I'd given up 5 years of my life for this, and I couldn't feel good about what was happening. And yet, I talked to the lawyers, and they're all like, Joe, what are you talking about? This was a win for you. Forget what they did to Mike. And I'm like, yeah, but they still went after Mike. And I knew that they were going to be able to like kind of twist it around and do those things. And I'm monitoring all those because I want to go after those people. But there was a guy that Luke Johnson, who's he's a writer. I think he's here in Denver, writes for magazines, and he asked me a bunch of questions, and I just started answering them. And he asked me how I went from Judge Wang being a nice woman to saying what I said when I wrote that post out to say, hey, listen, you need to hear what's happening here at the trial. And I said, like a snake you bring home. She was cordial and accommodating, and yet still a rotted, corrupt trash heap who served an ideology and put her fingers on the scale for a Satanist, drug-addicted liar. Next question. So he answers a question. Thanks, Joe. My next question. After Mike Lindell was found liable by a jury of his peers, his lawyers went through voir dire and said it was a victory. He was vindicated, and he was thrilled. Do you agree? Mike is open about his drug addiction, and he isn't a Satanist. I said, I'm talking about Coomer, who is a Satanist and a junkie. The jury was great. The judge made a finding of defamation per se. She should not have boxed in the jury. That's wrong and exposes what she did in the trial. The motion in limine was wrong. The issues related to the case all caused a very crooked judge. And for the record, I had met that judge at an event years earlier. She was a nice person. Yet before 2020, no one ever called me anything other than a man who served the underserved and his community. Oh, how 5 years can change things. So he goes through and asks another question. He said, Joe, you raised excellent points. I hear your frustration about being treated differently, and some of it does sound unfair, but with 200 plus interviews, and as a journalist calling people junkies, Satanists, criminals, and traitors, do you think that might explain the shift? Explain the shift of them coming after me, right? And so I wanted to get mad at him, but I'm like, I'm just going to explain it. I said, they came to my house with guns. They tried to hurt my wife and children. I had to fortify my home and hire PSD for 18 months. They sent powder through the mail, terrorized my family. Coomer is lucky I didn't come for him. But I'm not him. I'm not a liar, a junkie, or a Satanist. He is. Not proud of who I was or became in 2020, 2021. Pushed by the notion of having to protect my family from diabolical trash. Although I am much more measured today than I ever have been, than I have ever been, as I never want to become the very thing I'm fighting against. I live every day in anticipation of what may be forced to do as a result of real threats, not the ones made up by Coomer. And his response was, I think, perfect. It says, Joe, I'm genuinely seeing that. You've been measured. I'm truly sorry about what happened to your family. No family should ever be included. And nobody deserves threats ever. There's a lot more we agree on than disagree, and I respect the love and care for your family. I guess Apollo, I feel like this is my therapy session. I'm going to lay down on the couch. You're going to charge me by the hour. I look back on 2020 and 2021, and I know that it's not a victimless crime. And I also know that I'm not the only one that suffered through that time. And the part that makes me so angry is that they so flippantly come out and say, oh, now we're going to look into it. Now it's okay to look into it. It's like they get permission from the Rockefellers and the World Economic Forum. Okay, now you can look into it because in 2026, we're going to take back over the Senate and the House anyway, cause chaos. So it doesn't really matter. That's what I feel. And I feel like this is all is a gamified deal. You have Ken Paxton just came out confirming that he will be opening investigations into 33 non-citizens for illegally voting in the 2024 election. It's fucking bullshit. Okay. I'm sorry I just said it that way. 33. You have an entire election system with Dominion, Smartmatic, ES&S, Clear Ballot. They're all designed on the same substructure. They're all designed to do one thing, and that is steal the voice of the American people at every level. And you would never be able to know it. But you know why? Because you don't have free access and you don't have transparency in your elections. They're run by black boxes. And until the politicians actually decide that the warlords don't have reign over them and that they're willing to say paper ballots in person, no machines, no mail-in ballots, and you know what? Get your fat ass off the table, walk in here and actually vote and make something as monumentally important as this important enough to show up and vote. Make it a federal holiday. Anyway, that's my thought. And I'm sticking to it.
Well, it's not fair to people like you who told the truth early and people who are willing to run at it.
Yeah.
It's, it kind of, I guess looking back, it stings because you've been one of the people who's been taking a lot of arrows in the front for a long time, and now they're kind of coming around to it. Are you going to get any of that time back? No, but I think down the road, history will smile on you, and God certainly will, because even if it doesn't feel like it, and it's hard to see it right now, I think that you probably kept a lot of people going, and when there's a lot of people who are doing little things, and it's frustrating to see, any kind of long-term momentum that actually benefits the people, because really what they do is they keep everyone spun up and they'll let things out, but only at the time when, the people en masse are still behind the curve as to where things are really going. It's really frustrating, but I think that the efforts that you've put into all this, and the things you've sacrificed are going to matter a lot more than you might realize. And I know that I'm proud of you as your friend, and I'm grateful to be able to have seen someone stand up with such courage. And I think the things that you've done and given up, they have mattered, despite how crazy it's been.
I don't know. I actually know that I wouldn't have made it through the 18 months without you, because I'd have been dead. Or a lot of people would have been dead, because they'd come to my house and I would have just killed them. I already made the decision, right? And I already know I'm on somebody's list. I already know. I wake up every day, check the cameras, make sure everything's okay. I go through the same steps every single day. Boom, 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 boom. I change my travel patterns. I do all the stuff that I normally did. But I wouldn't have made it through those 18 months without you. Shit, I think that I would have probably been taken out in D.C. if I didn't have you there.
I thought we were both going to get taken out in D.C.
It was bad, huh?
There were a couple times.
Yeah, I still remember, though, the boom!
Oh, God, that was funny.
It scared the crap out of everybody.
That was one of the best moments of that entire year.
Yeah, it's, I feel, Noel said something here. He said, hey, Joe, Lord, help Joe let go of his anger and be a example for Christ. I'd like to believe that that's what I've become, an imperfect example for Christ, because I'm not perfect. And I didn't say I was perfect. I'm going to say stuff and I'm going to do stuff, and I'm going to, I'm going to fall down, but I'm going to be as authentic as possible on this. I got to tell you what I think, period. You may not like it. Truth sucks. It's absolutely awful. Sometimes not a lot of good that comes from it. But the truth is what the truth is. So it's, so thank you for that. And God is good, Allie. It's really good to see you. And I want to tell everyone that Jada, you guys don't know this because she hasn't said anything about it, but Jada just got married to an amazing young man. His name's Andrew. And I got to go to their wedding on Saturday, and it was a beautiful event. And Allie and James have raised some of the most amazing, beautiful children. They're amazing parents. They're amazing. They live their life in Christ, and they have been, and not even just how they've raised their their children, but how they have committed themselves to the community and doing the right thing and homeschooling and being an example to other and leading from the front. And James is terrible at ping pong. I just want to point that out. And I get to beat him all the time. And he's terrible at ping pong. He still can't beat me. Now he's saying he can beat me in basketball. That's not going to happen either, James. I just want to be really clear to you. But I want to give a shout out to Jasmine too, who's kind of pulling up herself and doing some great things. And yeah, just an amazing family. And Jada, I just want to say congratulations on getting married.
Yeah, and that whole family, you are really an incredible family. I know they were super involved with FEC, and I know, a lot of things in their community. It's families like yours that make a nation great. So congratulations to all of you.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Jalen's going to be the next one to get married. That's going to happen. Yeah, they're amazing. It's amazing. I don't even know what else to say. And Allie just says, "We love you, Apollo." It's good. Wow. I felt really good to just talk about. Totally not scripted. Of course, nothing we just say is scripted. All right. I want to just quickly talk about what's happening in Iran, and then we'll kind of close it out. President Trump is putting some truths out. I don't know how to take these truths. Let's talk about the first one. We now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. Iran has good sky trackers and other defensive equipment, and plenty of it, but it doesn't compare to American-made, conceived, and manufactured stuff. Nobody does it better than the good old USA. And his next truth was this: we know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We're not going to take him out, kill, at least not for now. But we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And finally, he said he called for unconditional surrender. Trump, I don't, you guys don't know that Tulsi said that they weren't close to having a nuclear weapon. And President Trump is kind of going back and forth on that. And there seems to be a shakeup in the DNI, Director of National Intelligence. Tulsi Gabbard is in that position. And President Trump had something to say. So I'm going to play this, and then we'll kind of get back to the other stuff. Let's play it.
Always said that you don't believe Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon. But how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having it.
I go back, Apollo, to the times of Cheney. Weapons of mass destruction. And I just want to tell everyone right now that the test of a true warrior, a test of someone who understands how to be a peacemaker, it goes through a funnel of not wanting war, but being capable of great violence. And the problem that I have is that the intelligence that President Trump gets is only as good as the people that give it to him. And I'm not telling you that Iran good or Iran bad. I'm not telling you any of that stuff. I'm not taking a position one way or another against Israel or Iran in this conflict. But I'm also going to say that the truth does not favor the United States intelligence community. And you can't decide that the CIA bad and the FBI's incompetent and not doing good things and still not come to the same conclusion that the information, intelligence that they have may or may not be real intelligence. And it might be driven and derived from faulty sources. Because millions of Iraqis died because they said they had weapons of mass destruction. Turns out there was no weapons of mass destruction. Furthermore, they called, like Lindsey Graham just did, for a regime change. Regime change is code word for we want what you got, and we're going to come in and take it from you. Well, we saw what they did in Gaza, what Israel did in Gaza. How do you go and just literally annihilate? Not just annihilate. How do you take away everything that people have? Destroy it, level it, turn it all to just sand and justify that behavior? How do you do that, Apollo?
I mean, you can't. I mean, warfare is ugly, but we've seen just time after time, every country, every continent on Earth, these nations that we pretend to align with at certain times in our intelligence agencies, State Department, and all these politicians, they will justify blanketly indiscriminate violence against people all over the world because we're fighting for democracy and then we're defending someone else. I mean, it's just endless. And, now you see the political conversation is what? Well, Israel's our ally, so we just have to kill all the other people for them. And then you have the other people that say, no, Israel's bad, so kill all of them. You look at Twitter when all these, volleys of missiles were going, and both sides, you see the most disgusting comments because you'll see people say, well, just glass Israel, let them all die, but make Israel not exist. And then you see the people saying, we need to glass, Iran. And they were saying the same thing in, Gaza. We got to just glass them all. Kill the children because they're terrorist children. Kill everybody. And, I mean, you look at what they've done historically. What happens every time you have some really uncomfortable truth or some money goes missing? You have some conflict. Somebody gets a bunch of money to go sell weapons, do whatever. We go in, take their resources, erase their history, install a puppet over there, and then we milk the people until they're essentially dying and, rape their nation for the next 10 years. We've seen that repeatedly. So right now we've got foreign nations influencing elections. We just, are on the heels of this pandemic where millions of people were killed just months on end. People lost businesses, massive financial, restructuring of the world. They siphoned resources. The economy's a wreck. Despite all the good that Trump's doing, I mean, we're still in bad shape, and people are certainly not going to be recovered anytime soon from that. So we're clawing our way back out of that. And now what? Do you think people in the intelligence department don't want us to go to war? After we're just saying, oh, look, like the biggest secret that China is influencing elections, that all these politicians are bought off. Like all these things that they're all out there. We have all these elephants in the room, but do we have any clarity on them? Do we have real elections yet? No. Do we have accountability? No. Do we know the names of any of the clients on the Epstein list? No. Like all these things, we keep getting sniffs. We don't have any actual clarity. We don't have anything fixed. So what do you think all of these people who are involved in any level or in the State Department or in the intelligence agencies who are all connected to this, what do you think they want? Of course they want war. Because as soon as you go to war, you erase everything that was before that, just like they did on 9/11. They lost like trillions of dollars, and they announced it the day before, and then poof, 9/11, and everyone gets their insurance policies. We send a bunch of people to die for weapons that didn't exist. History still is a mess. They could come out just like JFK. I mean, think of how long 9/11 was now. They came out a couple of years ago, and I think it was 2023, and they said, oh, yeah, well, here's some documents showing the CIA and Israel involved in the attacks to some degree. It gets brushed aside. Why? Because we're dealing with crazy, far-right extremism. And then it's the Muslims are the problem. We got the big boogeyman over there. The Iranians are the problem. Russia's the problem. everything against or except for clarity and actual restoration here in the United States, in our country. So, of course, they want us to go to war. They're going to try and convince Trump that he's got to go get involved in the war, nuke him, whatever. Now, go back to his truth. I think, personally, what he's doing is he's saying, no, we're not going to get involved, really. We're going to have to, send a bunch of... That's what I hope, anyways, that we're not going to really go start planting flags all over the place. But, if you want to be a leader who's going to see peace, you have to show some pretty forceful strength. And I hope that's all that I see going on, but of course they want war. War is the greatest fog that they have. And if you want all these other things that, we've gotten all these sniffs of to disappear, and, then we all of a sudden get unified and they get to create chaos while they sell off our children again, everybody wants us to go to war. And that's what I think is happening. Everyone wants war. Everyone wants death. Because you can wipe away a lot of things, while that's going on. And then you dance on the graves and you say you can't talk about it because people are suffering.
Yeah, so this is where we get into the bigger part of the why and what the ramifications are for us. If we go to war, we have to give up our children. And then we have people that will stand and say, draft dodger, you're a draft dodger. As if there's honor in watching your loved ones die. There isn't any honor in it. No more than there is honor in somebody standing up for some ideology and be willing to go and attack someone and try and kill someone based on their warped perception of reality. We have been fooled by so many fools. And my problem with what we're going through right now is that we are being forced to choose a side, and history is written by the victors. So we will never know if we were standing on the side of the devil because we never slowed down enough to see the reality or the truth. And everyone makes decisions based on a snapshot in time and then uses their ego and a lack of humility to come to some conclusion. And if you really want to be someone that someone will follow, and then you have to be consistent in your character, and you have to judge things based on what you can see, smell, touch, that are real. That's why I said I couldn't support Ukraine. I couldn't, because they were trash. And now everyone says, oh yeah, the little midget's terrible. He was always terrible. And you can't stand on the side of, if Biden's standing on that side and you're standing on the side with Biden, you're literally standing next to the devil itself. You can't do it. Same can be said for this. Show me where Iran did something. I want to see it. Show me where Iran did something. I want to see what Iran did to, they chanted death to America. Okay. So do radical leftists. They take a pledge. The communist, socialist, these really whacked out people that we have in our country, these radical leftists, they all took a pledge to destroy America. They went into our educational environment and then came out and they chanted death to America. And they said that we're on stolen land and we need to give it back to the indigenous people. And, just so you know, lands are conquered. For 2,000 years, they've been conquered. Get used to it. You want to cry over spilled milk 25 generations ago? Man, piss off. The reality of it is you lost. I'm sorry you lost. Sorry. That's just what happened. The same thing with reparations. I'm sorry. Go over to Africa and tell them to start paying the people money when they sent the relatives over here because they got a pot of gold for it. How do you think they got here? Nobody went over there and kidnapped people. No, you had some, hoodoo that was sitting on the side of the deal going, gather up the men. Let's send them over and give some gold and some salt. That's the reality. We want to sit here and act as if the victimization happened. Look, I'm not for any of it. But if you want to give retribution or, reparations, man, you know what? I want reparations. Because we could all say we want reparations from bad shit that happens generationally. But now we want to create enemies for us. We want to say that that Israel's we have to support them because the Bible tells us to. The Bible doesn't say shit about Israel. It doesn't say anything. Doesn't say anything about it. I don't have to. There's no biblical thing. I went through this last night, man. I was looking at it and I was like, Lord, I need to know. Is it? Should I? Do I have to support this? Is this normal? I can't find it. Grok can't find it either. ChatGPT, you name it, it can't find it. So where'd it come from? And just like Muslims get radicalized and say, oh, we want to go kill people and act like assholes, Christians decide that now Muslims bad, Jews good. I'm sorry, Jews killed Christ and they don't believe in Christ. At least Muslims do. Sorry, it's reality. Now you have the Jews that do follow Jesus. That they exist. But you also have Jews that think that Christians are dogs. And then they can sleep with any, non-Jewish woman that they want and treat them any way that they want. Like that's a real thing. We can't talk about that either. Can we, Apollo, are we allowed to talk about that? Is that off limits? Oh, I just got struck. Look at that. They just came down and punched me in the face. And this isn't me saying that I'm against Israel. This is saying, look, use your freaking brain. Chris, Israel was actually developed with a treaty in the 1940s. I want to be really clear. They picked a place on the map and said, we're going to call this deal Israel and send a bunch of people there. And if you really want to read the entire Bible says very clearly, that we are the chosen people, that Christians are the chosen people. Those that follow Jesus are the chosen people. It is in the Gospels at least 50 times. You cannot come to the Father except through me. So let me ask you, let me put it out there for you because I want you to understand this. All right? Just so everybody's clear. How in the world are Jews going to come to the Father if they don't believe in Jesus? Because they're not coming through Jesus. Oh, I mean, tell me. And I'm not, again, I believe that they believe in God. I believe in God. They believe in God. We all believe in God. Right? But I follow Jesus. Because I can't get to the Father except for through him. So how do you explain me just walking in and saying, the Jewish people, I got to follow you because, I'm supposed to, but you don't believe in Jesus?
No, I mean, I think it's simple. Listen, I think God loves all his children no matter where
Yes.
they came from. And I think God cries, he weeps when he sees anyone hurt another, hurt his neighbors, betray his friends.
Yep.
Sell out his people, commit violence or atrocities or lie in the name of personal gain. Any of these things you can, get semantic about sins and what they mean and all kinds of things. But I think God loves anyone who does their best to do good in the world and acknowledges that none of us are perfect because we're not God. But anyone who seeks to follow Christ and to love his neighbors and to do good works, I think God loves each one of those individuals equally. And I just blows my mind that now we're still having arguments about God choosing a political state over humanity, over actual human lives, and trying to draw a line around that. Because I don't think that's, some kind of intellectual debate. That should just be, just like we have the Spirit of God within us, that should be a truth that's evident within all of us if we're honest about it. And I think if you look at a state and you want to see if God favors it, see what the people in that state are like. Do they, choose to do good? Are they, as a whole, do they, seek to be a force for good in the world? Do they seek to love one another? I mean, why are we playing games? We're all supposed to be part of the kingdom of heaven and all supposed to be the hands and feet of God as we are in each other's lives. Let's just keep it simple at that. I don't give a shit about the name of a country or where it is. The church is the people.
Yeah, but who came up with that craziness? That was in the 40s or the 50s.
It's an extension of Britain.
It is unbelievable what they've said we have to do. You have to follow it.
Yeah, it's like one of the greatest psyops, but the same applies to a lot of religious things, and you get into all this like, oh, it's all biblical. Yeah, you know why it's all biblical? Because they know you believe the Bible and they'll know you follow it if you think God said it. It's really simple. They play all this, that's end times, revelation, and this is going to happen. Like, okay, if you think somebody has the technology to make an earthquake and then they put out a Twitter post that says God's going to shake this place on this date, and then the fifth angel of whatever the apocalypse that you were taught when you were 5 years old is going to come in next, and then they tell you it's coming on that date, and then they turn on the earthquake machine. You think the people aren't going to go along with it? It might sound kind of silly, but I mean, how many times have they been telling us the world is ending, like for the last 50 years alone? If everything's biblical, everyone believes it because they think it's God. They don't think that it's man who would do that to their own men, to their own brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I think that's my issue, right? And nobody really wants to have these kind of just open conversations like this because, God forbid you speak about Israel and you're anti-Semitic. How?
That's mind control. That's behavior modification.
Yeah, I'm anti-Semitic because I'm talking about not killing people. No, and look, I'm not even criticizing Trump's policy on it. I don't want anybody to have nuclear weapons. I certainly don't want some diabolical man that holds an entire country hostage to have nuclear weapons. But I don't actually know that the Ayatollah is that bad of a person. Why? Why would you say that, Joe? Okay, it's pretty simple. Ready? I got to go meet with Sam El-Haj, Guantanamo Bay prisoner 245. In Doha, Qatar. The gentle giant who spent years in Guantanamo Bay being tortured and asked questions. That's the guy that we made a terrorist. We just sucked up whoever we wanted and threw him inside of a cage. Right? There's so many stories of this. What they did to Sudan. Genocide and ethnic cleansing. It's a lie. Susan Rice, the bad Susan Rice, is the one that came up with that. Was there any ethnic cleansing or genocide in Darfur? Answer is no. It never happened. It is non-existent. There was no state-sponsored killing and cleansing of anything in that area. It was made up by Susan Rice at the UN, went to The Hague, made up all this stuff because President al-Bashir refused to bow down to their deal. And then you know what they did? Just so you know, they spent the next 25 years infiltrating and paying people off. Regime change. They finally got it just a few years ago. What do they do in Libya? They killed Gaddafi. Regime change. What's going on in Libya right now? Problems. Oh, I'm not done yet. Syria. Regime change. Massive issues there. What are they calling for in Iran? Regime change. What did they do in Turkey? They're calling for regime change. Anybody that doesn't play ball by their ball, guess what? We just kick them out and put someone else in. What did they do in Jamaica? Or not Jamaica. What is what's it called? Haiti. Oh, you won't give everybody the jab? Not only regime change, but we're going to come down there and send diabolical mercenaries from Florida that are U.S. ex-soldiers down there to assassinate the president of Haiti. That happened. Regime change. I mean, everywhere we turn, we get told, if you don't play by the rules, daddy's going to come in and regime change you. And we can't even figure out who's actually doing it. Except for the fact we got this country right in the middle of everything. It's like the hot spot. And then we look at really what's happening in the United States, 2.2% of the population, and every position out there, 40, 50, 60%. Because they got a little fraternity and they just come in and if you don't play by ball and you talk about them, they'll regime change you. This is freaking absurd. It's absurd. And you got the FB lie and the CI lie. I mean, it doesn't stop. That's my problem. My problem is that we're not paying attention. Iraq, regime change. Afghanistan, regime change. Egypt, they're still trying regime change. I mean, how many more times do you have to see this happen? Look at what happened in the Maidan coup in Ukraine. Regime change. And they did it using the same machines that they used Morocco, Mongolia. Dominion voting systems goes in there, creates complete chaos. People die as a result of it. Regime change. We get to decide who stays in office. I mean, how silly is it that I'm having this conversation on this show right now and I'm talking about regime change because that's what they said. It's the same thing as misinformation, malinformation, disinformation. It's all the same. Same playbook. And yet we ignore it. Regime change. Steal elections. Create bots. Make people look like they're bigger than they really are. And God forbid you ever say a bad word about a Jew. Oh my gosh, you're in trouble. Oh my gosh, you said that because they're Jewish. No, they're Jewish. They're a faithless atheist. So easy to see. So easy to see. And yet somewhere along the line, we're not allowed to say the quiet part out loud. Regime change. What did they just talk about? Regime change. Regime change. Regime change. Regime change. Ghana, regime change. Everywhere we turn, regime change. Ethiopia and Eritrea, regime change. Destroying sovereignty of Somalia, regime change. I mean, everywhere you talk, every single, just tell me a country that isn't that. DRC, you got the stuff that happened in Rwanda, regime change. And I'm not telling you that people didn't die, but who do you think funded it? And in the middle of all this, we're sending all sorts of precious metals and everything else to the United States for pennies on the dollar. And where do you think all the oil goes in this stuff? Do you think it gets sold for the $80 a barrel? No. It gets sold for $2 a barrel. And then these companies send it out in arbitrage from $2 to $25 and then put it on a big oil tanker and ship it back to Shell so that they make arbitrage on the oil that comes over. The same with diamonds and everything else. I mean, it's so pathetically ridiculous that we can't actually understand. And I know that most people have never been there. You've never been to Africa. You've never been to the Middle East. You don't know that they literally are using people in that area as indentured servants of absolute slavery, and that their death and their body, they mean nothing to anyone. They don't mean anything. You can level Gaza. Why? Because who cares? It's not your backyard. What do you care? They didn't kill your family. They just wiped out everyone else's family. It's really bad. It's really bad. And there's no such thing as being anti-Semitic. You either are a good person or you're a bad person. It's the same thing. I'm not going to be like FTP, F the police. But I'm going to tell you right now, there's a high propensity of bad police officers in certain jurisdictions. And we should talk about it. It's called being honest, being intellectually and academically honest about what's in front of us. Yeah, you got John Bolton. That guy's a piece. He's a turd. Absolute turd. I'm saying all this stuff and you're not allowed to say any of it. It's crazy. Let's see, am I going to get knocked off of X? Probably going to kick me out. All right. I've talked enough about Iran. I gave you guys a history lesson. Go check my math in any of that, by the way. Check all of it. Iraq, Iran, regime change there. Sudan. Sudan's the worst. They split the country in half based on where they're going after the Christians in South Sudan. There weren't any Christians in South Sudan. You had Coptic Christians. They lived in Sudan and some down in South Sudan. But there was no persecution of Christians. Yeah, the persecution of Christians. Yeah, because they were killing everybody. Because it was a war, a civil war. And guess who funded that? And then, oh, yeah, that's right. You had the landmines in between Kenya and Sudan. And I'm thinking to myself, holy crap. No matter what, you can't get enough information back to the United States. And when I went to the Middle East, I'm like, listen, we killed a lot of people in Iraq and it was all a lie. And I remember coming back in 2010 and I got blasted. It took years later. We're talking about the election right now. It's going to take years later. Oh, yeah, they stole the election in 2020, but we're still using the machines and the mail-in ballots. Everything that we do is literally kabuki theater. And so I would admonish all of you to say, listen, left, right, green, yellow, purple, be more measured, but hold people accountable to do the things, to fix the things that put us back on a good path. And you know what? If we get free and fair elections and you get people that have transparency in that, I promise you will solve a lot of problems. And you stop listening to stupid idiot, grafting little idiots like Jovan Pulitzer, who literally have no talent, none, zero. And zero understanding other than going out there and making stuff up and creating pretty pictures and making it seem like he's smart. He's not smart. He's not smart. Stop listening to people out there that tell you that you have to support one side or the other and you can't stand for humanity. And stop people telling you can't talk about Jews being bad when they're bad. Sorry. And look, I don't agree with everything that, Mayor Giuliani says. Hey, Bibi's a good dude and he's doing what he has to protect the homeland. I'm out. I don't have to agree with him. We disagree with each other. And he's like, you'll see. Okay, I'll see. Now, can we stop shooting people? Can we stop killing people? Drop bombs on people's heads? And acting like that we have no respect for the value of life? Because that's what we're doing. We're literally desensitizing ourselves to just killing mass number of people. Well, by the way, they're taking away your gun rights and taking away your ability to speak and suing people with defamation and lawfare and all the other things that they're doing. Okay, I said it. I said it all out loud. Yeah, it's awesome. All right, what do we got? I got to pray us out. Anybody else want to talk to me about having an opinion? I don't have any opinions. The stuff happening in Iran is really bad. Iranian military is they're not going to back down. They're not going to back down at all. And what? Images supposedly released from Iran's recent batch of hacked Israeli intelligence files claim to expose Israel's Samson option. Nuclear target list. Holy crap. Let's put that up. What in the holy shit? They call it a global deterrence attack?
Yeah, basically, if they get cornered, they're just going to screw everybody up. Denver's on the list.
NORAD location? It's not Denver. It's down in Colorado Springs.
No, I mean, they've got more than Colorado Springs location. They've got, Colorado's basically a giant military installation.
Holy cow. And we're the enemy? Well, and here's the problem that we need to probably address. Gaza, of course, they already got Gaza. There's nothing left there. Going after Russia. The problem is they put people in positions of trust and authority all over the world. And in the United States, they've infiltrated every part. So you'd never know. They'd never tell you. These people they're not honest people. Pretty crazy. This is nuts. All right, I just shared it. Okay, I'm done. I'm done looking at the stuff now. I can't look at anything more. Do I have what is this other thing that I see in here? Oh, never mind. We're good. All right, let's pray us out. Let me see what comments I have so far so I can say goodbye to everybody. Hey, if it goes that direction, I'll see you guys in heaven soon enough. What are you guys talking about? You guys talking about New Testament, New Covenant, Testament? Yeah. God made his covenant with Israel. However, he keeps it is up to him. God made a covenant with national Israel, and they broke it, therefore, the New Covenant Testament. That's true, too. Let's see here. I just don't think that Israel is my business. I also agree with ending the killing. Agree. Better than more than a burner. Sweet, better have more than a burner. I agree. You guys need guns and ammo. Truth About Bibi needs to come out. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Samson bringing the whole corrupt temple down on top of everyone. It's oh, Kabayashi. I got it. Okay, best choice for us is the stat out the neutral zone. I agree with you. How is Tina? Oh, how is Tina? She's not good. Apollo, you want to give us an update on Tina?
Yeah, we went to see her this past weekend, and she's actually, in some ways, she's good, and she's ready to be out. She wants to be out, and she wants to get out and start swinging and, fighting for elections, and she is very tired of getting cooped up. She got a little skinny. And, there's some people who are not very friendly, but we got a few hours with her on Saturday, and it was really, really good to see her in person. And she's very, very grateful for all of you. So I know there's some things that they're working on the legal side. There's some things that still need to happen, but
yeah, her health is okay.
She's okay. Yeah, her health is fine right now. The food's not great, and she's been trying to work out because she lost a lot of weight with the food and just being cooped up for so long. But overall, she's in pretty good spirits.
Well, and she's in a minimum she's in the best of the world that you could be in. It's basically a camp, right? So she gets to walk from building to building. It's as conducive as you could ever ask for her, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, short of a resort, like in terms of a prison facility, it could be way, way worse.
Right.
But yeah, she's very grateful, and she's very eager to get out, but she's doing good. We had a lot of laughs on Saturday.
Awesome. Well, the laughs are good. I hope I get to see her in the next couple of weeks. Give you an update there. Whew. All right, let's pray it out, yeah?
Yeah.
Father God, thank you for this time we had today. I'm sorry we went over, but I'm just grateful for the people that have stood in the gap and done what is necessary in order to protect our country, their children, their families, that have pursued truth regardless of where it may take them. I'm grateful, Father, for the path that you put us on and for the light that you have us walk towards and for the Holy Spirit. Father, we're grateful for just the blessings that you put in our lives. Even as we kind of try and walk past those blessings and complain about the things that aren't going well, we know that everything happens in your time, Father. And so we're just grateful to have an opportunity to be born at a time such as this and be able to connect ourselves together and fight against this evil, this really bad stuff that seems to be happening in our communities. Father, we ask you to please bless those that are sick, that they may be healed. And Dave Bear, we know that he's having some complications, so if you could just put your hand on his shoulder. Father, we also ask you to give our leaders the wisdom that is necessary, not just here, but everywhere, necessary that they may be able to establish a better ground for us as Americans and for people around the world. Help us, Father, that we may never become the very thing we're fighting against. And that as we expose some of the misgivings of people in our country, that we may, with humility, walk into a place where we can fix those problems so they don't happen again. And again, I say, Father, thank you for just the time that you've given us together. I say these things humbly. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, I'll see you guys on tomorrow. Same time. Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern time is prayer time for Tina. 669-274-9260. Please keep phones muted unless speaking. And that's 2 p.m. Eastern time. There is a prayer line. And I just want to give this shout out to AMAC. So many of you guys signed up that they were just overwhelmed. It's good for us, I guess, because it at least gives us an idea of how many people are, want to be associated with it. But AMAC is amac.us/untamed. Go there. It's going to give you a free membership for a year, a 1-year free AMAC membership. Go there to amac.us/untamed and get your free membership. It will save you a bunch of money. It costs us, but saves you. So we're just happy to be able to gift you some of these things and take care of you. So God bless you. Remember, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. We're on the BEK network. We're in the radio stations. Thanks for telling me about the radio station in Kansas. I do appreciate that. We're just trying to kind of move the needle and get things kind of moving in the positive direction and understanding where and what our reach is. So blessings to you all. I do love you. Thank you. And we will talk again tomorrow.